If there was one perfect image to show off Japan's beauty, most people would agree with me in saying that it should be something like this, with a pagoda, Mount Fuji in the back, and of course plenty of sakura trees. Cherry blossoms have undeniably become one of the most cherished symbols of Japan, but they are present across much of East Asia. So why are sakura so important to Japanese culture in particular? Sakura tend to only bloom for around 2 weeks from March to early May until withering away. Although they bloom at different times due to the different climates across Japan, everywhere the inescapably slow blooming periods remind us that beauty and life itself is short. In ancient times, farmers would sometimes pray, make offerings, and prepare a feast under the trees as a way to bring about an abundant harvest. The sakura's blooming periods coincided with the best time to plant crops, so they guided farmers to a new year and a new plentiful harvest. It was for these reasons that people transplanted the trees from the mountains into inhabited areas. In Shintoism and some Buddhist folktales, kami, Japanese equivalent of spirit, gods, or deities, are said to inhabit kodama, which are old or beautiful trees. Such trees have shimenawa on them, large twisted ropes around their trunks. It is said that misfortune will befall anyone who mistreats or cut down these sacred trees. Many of these special trees are cherry blossom trees, and it is said that some of them bloom on special days of the year. Some might even possess the souls of people who once roamed the earth. For example, one of these sacred trees is a Ubazakura, aka the milk nurse cherry tree, and it is said to bloom on the anniversary of a wet nurse who gave up her life to save a child in her care. Her soul lives on in the form of this tree. Sakura eventually came to go hand in hand with the Shinto and Buddhist ideals of impermanence, hope, and renewal, and its connection to the two largest religions in Japan cemented its place in the national identity. The etymology or word origin of Sakura is disputed, but one of the most popular theories states that Sa comes from Sagami or Sanokami, which is the name of the god of the rice fields in traditional Shintoism, and Kura comes from the word meaning seat or vessel. In other words, sakura trees may have been referred to as seats of the rice field deity over a millennia ago. In China, cherry blossoms signify love and femininity. Before the Naka period in Japan, which took place between 710 to 974 AD, plum blossoms were everywhere in aristocratic gardens and a common theme in poetry of the time. Flower viewing plum blossoms was a cultural practice imported from China, and during this time, nobles often read Chinese poetry under these trees. Later on, after the Naka period, during the Heian period, hanami began focusing on cherry blossoms instead of plums. So it's during a time when the leaders of Japan wanted to culturally distance themselves from China, and as there were so many sakura trees on the Japanese islands, the sakura became glorified in society, similar to how the plum blossom was once revered. The practice of hanami, which literally translates to flower viewing, started over 1,000 years ago. The Emperor Saga of the Heian period is said to have been the first to hold such a practice. It became a tradition for cherry blossom viewing to take place every year at the imperial court among the upper classes, and later on such celebrations spread to the warrior class. During this time, samurai were warriors who didn't fear death. The falling sakura petals reminded many of the samurai's short but colorful lives. A fallen cherry blossom or petal was believed to symbolize the end of one of their short lives. It is also for this reason that many kamikaze pilots marked or painted their planes with sakura before committing their final mission. It's an act seen at the time as dying like beautiful falling cherry petals for the emperor. But cherry blossoms are largely never compared to anything remotely close to violence or war, especially today. Toyotomi Hideyoshi, known as the Second Great Unifier of Japan, ruled Japan from 1585 to 1592, and he popularized sakura throughout the Japanese islands. He also held celebrations for thousands to attend and planted hundreds of sakura trees in Kyoto, the capital of the country at the time. Later on, the shogunate, the military rulers of the country, started planting cherry blossoms in public spaces, allowing all to celebrate the tree's beauty. Nowadays, hanami is a way for many Japanese to spend time with family, all while relaxing under the sakura trees and their slow-falling petals. Family and friends often gather for picnics and parties, which may involve singing, bentos, mochi, and of course sake. At night, couples often gaze up at the flowers together, doing what's called yozakura. Sometimes paper lanterns are hung near or on the trees, and in busier areas, vendors line the streets with food and sweets. A cherry blossoms forecast is even released every year to ensure everyone knows where and when they can join the celebrations. Due to their short blooming period, cherry blossoms can symbolize life and death. They bring color, vibrance, and beauty alongside the start of spring, but this is short-lived, just like life itself. So today, the Japanese fiscal and school years begin in April, when the sakura trees start to bloom. Many schools and company buildings have cherry trees outside of them, so it's kind of like the cherry blossoms are there to welcome everyone to a new chapter in their lives. Sakura are a symbol of renewal, optimism, good luck, and new possibilities. Sakura tea or sakurayu is also sometimes drunk at weddings and is said to symbolize a healthy marriage. Other themed foods such as biscuits, cakes, and Sakura mochi are also commonly sold during Sakura season. Sakura Sakura is also a popular traditional children's song, and it's so iconic I had to mention it in my video on mid-2000s Japanese nostalgia. It's practically treated as Japan's second national anthem. The Sakura has just slowly seeped its way into much of Japanese culture. Over the centuries, it has slowly become more central to Japanese cultural practices, celebrations, and religion. And still to this day, just like those who lived over a millennia ago, blooming Sakura signify new beginnings, and guide us all towards a new, enjoyable year, filled with celebrations of the beauty that surrounds us all. And that's the end of the video. While making this, got reminded a lot of my first video I posted on this channel about the importance of Mount Fuji. I like to think my video quality has improved a lot since then, but admittedly I still have a lot of room to improve. But even still, so many of you have started following and watching my videos since then, and for that, as always, just thank you all so much for watching.